there's Cliff. I see him. And we'll get started in just one moment. All right. I think we should be up and running just fine. Yeah. There we go. We'll get started in just 1 second. You can hear me okay, Cliff, correct? Oh, I don't hear you. That's weird. Hold on 1 second. Oh. Try that again. I see you coming in my way right, so don't change anything on your end. Curious. Okay. Let's jump straight in. I think I'm working on this side. I see my own thing. Hold on. Let me jump in here real quick. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. Cliff, can you check for me? Make sure I can hear you. Yeah, so there's the audio. And I see it coming from you. I just don't see it going to me. Oh, why is the mute turned on? Check that again. Hey.
Hello?
I hear you. I hear you just moving. Yeah, I hear you moving around in the background. It was just a switch that needed flipping. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Cliff Schechter, host of Cliff's Edge.
Isn't that all of life? But I'm going to shut up. Go ahead.
Yeah, host of Cliff's Edge. Yes, please shut up while I'm trying to vigorously promote your show, the live stream that you're doing on the regular that is increasing in popularity and strength. Cliff's Edge. It's Cliff's_Edge on YouTube. And then, of course, on Blue Sky, you're just Cliff Schechter at .bluesky.com or .bsky.com or .social.
Yes. That's social. I haven't changed it to domain name the way you smartly have, so that's where I am right
Yes, now. I'm giving Boston Brian a little class in how to do that. I'm literally walking him through it after today's show. After he gets off work, he and I are going to Zoom together like I do with my mom trying to fix her Wi-Fi, and I'm going to... That's true. I'm going to take it through all the steps.
This is what that was.
No, it's... look... I'm named after a computer. I am expected to do these things, and it is a challenge I am comfortable with, and I will take on with verve. And if you need any help walking through it, I doubt you do. As a matter of fact, you probably just get the person who runs your website. If anybody's between you and it, just have them add a text DNS file.
They have a thing, right? They have like a how-to thing. I just haven't had the time, and I figure I'm going to try to do it on my own before I pull I'm my mom and ask Hal or somebody like you, Hal, to sit there and zoom in with me.
I would gladly, and it's worth a hang anyways, because I'm sure the conversation,
it's true.
as it often is with you and I. Barbara says you were there when I handheld stuttering John through every process, where I got him an actual microphone. So believe me, if we can keep stuttering John's green screen from bursting into flames, we can get you, Blue Sky verified, as it were. And my first kind of story out of the top of this, because I think we have to handle the things we can handle and not comply in advance. Don't obey in advance, I think is great advice. And don't pretend that it's going to be easy and smooth sailing and he's just going to run roughshod over everybody and he's just magically going to have that, because acquiescing that power is a mistake from the start. So when it comes to Blue Sky, the traffic has doubled. It has made a significant dent in the traffic on Twitter, which should tell you something. That a site with allegedly...
1 million per day, right?
Right, but a site with allegedly, 200 million people on it, the fact that it losing 10 somehow greatly affects its traffic is hinky. It's suspect, because it shouldn't. It means that all the real people are leaving. And the bullshit bots and the like MAGA circle jerk is all that's left behind, and those people don't actually do anything. Seattle Suzy says,
we knew that was a lot of what was left.
I'm shutting. At this point, right? I'm shutting down my account. Yeah, no, I was just saying. I downloaded all my stuff. I'm waiting for my tweets to delete, because I don't want them left on the server if I close the thing. Now, technically speaking, should your stuff be erased if you, because I have 9 gigabytes compressed. I have 9 gigabytes, so God knows how much stuff. But I removed all that stuff. I started delete tweet working on it, and it's taking its sweet time. So as soon as that's done, I don't want him training stuff on grok on my stuff after I leave. I already turned it off on there, but that doesn't mean he can't turn it back on after you leave the thing. So I'm erasing all my stuff. Then Monday will be my last day, a week from today, probably Friday, but I'll end up doing it. But Monday I will not be on X going forward at all. Right now I'm just leading the charge off the site. Yes.
Because you had said originally that you were going to keep live streaming there, so you've changed your mind about that?
Well, only temporarily. No, I was only going to keep live streaming after I deleted all my tweets and stuff as a fuck you, I'm leaving, and to kind of annoy people who are still there for about a week. But no, the whole thing was to get off by Thanksgiving, and I'm ahead of schedule.
Because what I've been doing is, for folks to know, is I made sure to put up another message today that I pinned to the top, and even made my little profile thing. I've moved to Blue Sky. I am no longer, I figured a lot of what, as you just pointed out, they get nothing out of all these stupid Nazis that are there. They just try to go harass people, and most of us ignore them. they get stuff out of engagement. So I'm not engaging anymore. I'm not doing any of that. I admit, though, what I've done is my accounts remained open, and I've posted my 1 or 2 medium or shorter videos a day, and then I live stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I've been doing that, but maybe that's too much too, and maybe I just need to shut the whole damn thing down.
Let me be as clear as I can possibly be. It has to die. I will deactivate, and I'm deleting all my tweets, and then I'm deactivating my account so that there is legally no leftover record. I'm sure he can keep whatever's on his servers, and I can't do much about that. But legally, I'm taking everything with me and then shutting it down. I will not live stream on there. I will not post on there. And here's the problem. Here's the issue with just posting. It can be the seed of back and forth. Even if he just sets bots on what you said, it still will show up as engagement insofar as he's selling to advertisers. Even if you don't respond, because other people who are there might respond in your defense or in your absence or with it. It doesn't matter.
Fair.
It's all gotta go. It's gotta be a dead.
No, I've been thinking about this because obviously I don't want to make fun of people I don't know, and I don't know Boston Brian, so I'm not going to make fun of him. But let's stick with my mom. I'm not my mom who would be like, it wouldn't know what to do technologically. It would be like, how do I use this answering machine? But I'm also not you. I'm somewhere in the middle. So I don't know, it's good to have people sort of explain some of the things because I can do a lot of it myself, understand a lot of it, but don't understand it on your level. So what you're saying is obviously, and that makes a lot of sense, if you think about it, that even if bots engage with me, he's getting something out of that. So what I'll do is I'll keep putting stuff up there, but I think I'll head in your direction and start I did it once before when I was thinking when I first opened, when Post first came out, which ended up sadly failing or whatever, and I started there, which is I did download everything up to that point. But that's like a year and a half ago now. So I need to do it again. Oh, I can't hear you now, Hal.
Sometimes it gets confused. There we go.
Oh,
yeah.
Now I hear you.
So, yeah, fixed it.
The best thing I can say is anyhow to people that are sort of in that process is if you're like me, and you may not be because I'm a little bit wacky, but you know what? If you're all like me, there's one place of those kinds of places, like YouTube is my main thing at this point, but there's of those kinds of, I don't want to call them Twitterish, but those options, I always have one place that I think of as home, and it was Twitter. And all it takes, I'm telling you, if you are a sane person, if you have at least 3 or 4, brain cells that can interact, if you're firing neurons, if you know the difference between the various your, and your, you're going to be somebody that's going to go to Blue Sky. And when you come back to Twitter, you're going to feel icky. When I've gone back to visit, it feels gross. Like it feels icky. It feels gross. It's a
waste of time.
You feel like once you leave and you break the habit, you don't want to go back. So it's going to be easy for me to do this.
Yes. Here's again. We all fondly remember MySpace, but it became a meme after a very short look. Like everybody was so fully invested. Baby. Right. Well, it became such a thing. Honest to God, it became such a thing that you could argue that Dane Cook's entire career was based on the fact that he was the first guy to reach 1 million followers on MySpace, and it made him far and away, depending on your opinion about his humor, and it's subjective. I don't yuck anybody's yum when it comes to laughter, but it got him way ahead of the pack. Arguably, right. Where he was selling tickets Carlin couldn't sell, and that in and of itself is friggin' mind-blowing.
Well, that hurts me because, again, I'm not going to judge Dane Cook either, but I am going to judge George Carlin as the greatest comedy mind in my humble opinion ever. So
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. That after that, it changed the course of pop culture. MySpace. It was, literally. There's a line in White and Nerdy, the Weird Al song, got people fighting for my top 8 spaces, right? Was one of his lines, you know. And I get, yeah. And so that it was a cultural phenomenon. And then it wasn't.
Yes.
And then it was a meme, okay? Shitter is going to be a meme too. And there's two things. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Trump's appointments and the people he's going to put in. And you know, I think so much smoke is made about Matt Gaetz, which is going to, you know, is almost there just to cause Republicans to fight each other. I'm almost glad he chummed the waters with that horse shit because it's not going anywhere. But his FCC pick is one of the wrote the chapter on the FCC in Project 2025, Brendan Carr. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've read Project 2025, and I've read Brendan Carr's segment on the FCC. And Brendan Carr is just an anti-China hawk. And what it's going to amount to is that if he does actually do what he says he's going to do, he's going to have to shut down Twitter. And because right now Elon Musk is doing all the things, damping down, like dissent, shadow banning, all that shit that they were talking about.
He needs that market for Tesla, and so in the end, he'll kiss their asses as much as necessary.
But the issue that Carr has, beyond the fact that he wants to get rid of the section of protections of Section 230, is they're talking about, and it's so ironic that everybody's going to Blue Sky. This is the amazing thing about it, is that Blue Sky is on the Mastodon architecture, and it's decentralized. They can't tell you what to post, and you have more options.
You can actually have your Mastodon posts, which I bet you know how to do too. I need to do that. You can have them go as a separate feed there, which I need to do.
You absolutely
that I don't know how to do, but I'm hoping I figure it out.
Yeah, it's not that difficult. But the point is, it's decentralized. Blue Sky is simply a through point to the content you create. And you can move that content if they ever shut you down to Mastodon or any of these other things. It is very different from the corral/prison cell of Facebook or, and by the way, or specifically Shitter. And Threads is based on that as well. It is based on the Mastodon open architecture because that's what I
didn't know that about Threads because I've been, again, and I get it. You were telling people about that too, but and I'm not saying it's obviously not Twitter. I'm not trying to compare it, but just the fact that they said they were going to, dampen down political content there before the election. There was a big controversy about that people, whether they were going to mess with the algorithm because they didn't want political stuff getting out as much because Zuckerberg, he's an ass kisser like Bezos. He just wants to. So I've made Threads for me. It is now like what I've been doing at Twitter, which is I'm just putting my videos up there. I'm not doing anything else.
Well, here's the thing. He can do that on Instagram and he can do that on Facebook. He can't do it on Threads. Threads can't downplay it like that because it doesn't work the same way. Because they were all basing this stuff on the open architecture concept, which became.
I knew that about Blue Sky. I didn't know that about Threads. So thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah. So it is. I'm sure he has ways that he can throttle stuff if he tries, but odds are he isn't because I think they view it as this kind of like side point to throw a bone to the privacy folks. Ultimately, Threads is meant to be is more of a competitor for a Substack. Blog, because Substack not only has the blogging stuff, but it also has its own sort of social network aspect to it, which is why Elon Musk didn't want people posting their Substack shit on Twitter because he was worried people were going to move that way because it was very much like Threads. It had a bigger audience, and Taibbi and all those other assholes, he was, shivving and paying them at the same time. So, and again, people are like, I don't trust Zuck any more than Musk, which is why Blue Sky is the place to go. Now, Carr has made this argument, and I'll see if he's going after Section 230. I want to see if the promoting national security, unleashing economic prosperity, ensuring FCC accountability and good governance. But where is it? He has a whole segment in his piece, and I wish I had the text of it in front of me, where he talks about how social media, big tech, needs to be decentralized. Instead of under the thumb of these oligarchs, these tech oligarchs, which the irony that he's talking straight to and about Elon Musk right past his fucking
and that's just, and I've said to people numerous times, that's a smokescreen for whenever you hear them talk about censorship or even mention all of that. That means we don't want anybody to stop us from sharing disinformation because that's the only way we were able to win this election. And that's the key, right?
Well, here's the thing, is that you and I, as individuals, in our humble opinion, could create a starter pack of disinfo and say all these accounts are selling bullshit, in my opinion. Block them by doing this, and your followers and my followers and fucking Rex Chapman's or whoever else can say they agree in their opinion, or they trust the opinion of Rex Chapman or somebody like that. And that's enough protection in the world of free speech for the rest of us to go, you know what, I like your judgment. I'm going to shut off all those fucking accounts. And if I want to go back later and unclick one, maybe I will. But the rest of them can go. Instead of Musk or Zuckerberg or some nameless somebody in the middle of nowhere throttling stuff, we can actively outright throttle things on Blue Sky. You can there's a MAGA group that you can literally block all of them. That a lot of people have found already, and that's how we're going to handle it going forward. It isn't going to be this like room at Facebook that we hope does the right thing, or maybe, right? We can actively participate in this, and you can block that account or warn yourself about that account, or give yourself, or simply, tag that account as concerning. There's a lot more options.
My favorite part so far is people are doing the work, for others. So, I mean, the greatest one, and I don't know if this was a Blue Sky creation or an individual creation, but that block list of anybody that had like hashtag MAGA or hashtag Trump 2024 in their bio, one keystroke, I went, and I mean, at this point, I would tell you I've maybe had two people respond with trollish type remarks. Yeah. And they were people from the other end, the far left end, coming at me, and I just immediately blocked them. I have not yet had one MAGA idiot come after me, and I've been it was Monday when I started pretty consistently, so it's been a week.
Here's the sweet spot. Here's the thing that I like the most. That no matter what happens, if those assholes come over and pick a fight on Blue Sky, they are still denying traffic to his site. That's good enough on its own. If they just, even if Cat Turd comes over and makes a Blue Sky thing and starts typing the fuck away, it takes money directly out of Elon's pocket, and all we have to do is go mute, and he's done. He can scream into the fucking void. What you're saying here is, you and I, Hal, and others, maybe a few others, we should create a fake site and claim we're there, and claim that all these other people are there, and create fake bots for them. And then sort of leak it to Twitter that if we come over there, there's no protection for all of us. They can just rip us apart and get them to go waste their time and do that so they all leave Twitter. We would also have to create hundreds of bots that run on Grok. That run on Grok, which is Elon Musk's AI, so it can eat up cycles on at his farm and just kind of burn fuel.
I like it.
Right. And all the liberal bots on that site should be using Grok to argue with real maggots, and they'll just, fight back and forth in a little cul-de-sac on the internet. I mean, it will. I mean, there's a chance we're contributing to the dead internet theory.
That's what I'd like to do for fun, and we could all just sort of sell tickets and watch it for from the outside for a good time.
Yeah, it's like maggot gladiator. But that's ultimately, by the way. That's the analogy I have been using about Twitter, is that he's the Caesar giving the thumbs up and the thumbs down to everybody by putting a scale on what stories get work and which ones don't. And people are paying, both through direct money or through their participation, to fight in his arena for his pleasure. No.
Right. And the thing is, again, anybody who's read, there have been numerous studies, right, on who these trolls are. An enormously large percentage of them are antisocial personality disorder, sociopaths, narcissists. They're people who don't know how to exist in the regular world. They're incels. They're losers. Sorry, but it just is what it is, right? And so what do you think is going to happen when we're no longer there? Kind of like what you see happen between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. or between Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, or between Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis. They fight each other because they all are so disordered in their personalities. They all are so warped that they have to be fighting with somebody about something. So, you know, it's kind of like what you said before about, about let it, when it came to Twitter, let it die. And it's sort of, I mean, I'm sorry, I'll geek out here and think of that great line by William Shatner's Captain Kirk in The Undiscovered Country, Star Trek VI, when he's talking about the Klingons. He's like, let them die when it blows up. Let these assholes fight. Just let them all go at each other, because when we're not there, they're going to need to find somebody to pick on and fight with. And it's going to be each other.
Right. And here's the thing. All of the accounts, I don't know how clearly I can say this to everybody, but with every force of the words and the breath that comes out of my body, I want to tell you guys, and you need to know this, every account, for whether they look friendly or not, on Blue Sky that's saying, I'm worried that we're talking in an echo chamber and this is just creating an echo chamber. All of those are either live or bot accounts created by Elon Musk's publicity team, effectively, to drive traffic back to shitter. That's all they're there for. Believe me,
and
we
it's
will
such
have
a
plenty.
stupid concept too.
It's idiotic.
Oh my God! You want to? As I put up on Blue Sky the other day, I think instead of going out with a couple of my good friends this week, I'll find 5 or 10 people who I absolutely hate. And I hate everything about them, but I'm going to hang out with them instead. Do you know why? Because I don't want to go out drinking with my friends and be in an echo chamber. I want to go out with all of the jack-offs that I literally can't stand. I mean, the whole echo chamber concept. I mean, you want to find people that are constructive, positive people, have conversations with them, figure out things with them, well, the interact, whatever. Oh my God, you're such an echo chamber. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes. Here's what I would say to the people who are like, should we block the people that are saying that? No, mute them. They'll get over it. And then you can unmute them later. You don't have to full on block them and exclude them from the conversation, because if you know them, or if you think they're if you believe they're a real site, you can mute them for the time, because you don't need to hear it. The other thing too is, like you're saying, that they are primed to fight. They are actually primed to just fight for the sake of fighting. And that's what they'll do on their site. On ours, without the straight up fighting and the straight vilification, we might be able to talk about some of these more complex issues, like trans rights versus autogynephiliacs posing as women so that they can go into the women's prison and sexually assault women. That's not a trans person. That's an autogynephiliac. And we should be able to have the conversation. Trans people shouldn't bear the cross of everybody doing blanket conversations at their expense, right? That's a real conversation that can really happen, that requires caring and thought by people who actually give a shit about trans people.
That's what I'm trying to do in my, with my live stream and what you're doing
after
here.
Everybody. Yes, right.
Right? I mean, this is what we're doing. Like, I've said that to my audience, whereas I said, some of these conversations are really easy, and some of them are more difficult. And let's have the more difficult conversations, because the thing is, we all know who we are. We know that we're here in good faith. We know nobody's here to troll. So let's figure this out and move forward together on the same side, as opposed to where I think it brings out the worst. And I admitted this on Blue Sky. Like, look, when somebody attacks my country, when somebody attacks my family, when somebody does things, I am primed to rip the shit out of them. I mean, that's just who I am. And I can do that in one moment on Blue Sky, and the next moment, like, be talking about, my favorite baseball play, or, my favorite band. Whereas if I'm over on Twitter, it brings out the worst in me, because when I do something like that, then 50 of them come at me, and then I waste my time going back and forth. I think it even brings the worst out of liberals and wastes our time. So the whole point is, you can rip the crap out of them, you can define them, you can message against them. You don't need to be on Twitter to do that. And you will be a happier person, and you will spend your time better.
Absolutely. One of the things that happens when you actually care about people, and you actually care about the issues, and you actually care about the vulnerable or minorities or somebody on the downslope of life, is that when they are part of a group, they are not that group, but they are part of that group, and then someone comes along and attacks that entire group as a whole, They just kind of blanket throw the ball in, like Biden is careful not to do and Hillary was careful not to do, attack all Republicans as MAGA and vice versa, make that distinction. They don't make that distinction. They just say immigrants are eating the dogs and they're rapists and murderers. And so our response is a wholesale protection because you don't want to feel like you're playing into their hands by half-assing it. Okay, so everybody jumps in and acts like there are everyone is innocent. All of them are just victims of the circumstance. You can't have a real conversation about immigration when someone is violently attacking them. So we tend to paint with a broad brush in response to their vilifying with a broad brush, and without that bigotry as the primer for the conversation, you can discuss. That's how comprehensive immigration reform happens. That's how a change in the asylum system without the elimination of the asylum system happens. That's how a two-state solution happens and a conversation.
We need to figure some of that out and reform some of those. And guess what? There are going to be, because what democracy is about at its essence, and people on the left need to understand the same way people of good faith on the center right or whatever need to understand, is that there are going to be some compromises and you don't get everything you want. That's what democracy is. And so it doesn't mean you're a bad person to say, hey, we need some of A and we need some of B, but you can't have a conversation. And this is why I get so pissed when Democrats treat any Republican who has shown themselves to be somebody of bad faith with the slightest bit of respect. There's still a few people over there, and I'm not defending them, but there's still a few people over there that at least I think care about something. I just think are genuinely very wrong about most things. Yeah, I think someone like Lisa Murkowski, you perhaps can have a conversation with about certain things, right? Because maybe she cares about some stuff, even though she's very misguided. All right, but why would you have a conversation with Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley or Rand Paul or and it's the same equivalent here. I mean, if people are there in bad faith, they're just there to throw mud in the gears. They're just there to screw everything up. They're there to get everybody at each other's throats. That's all they're about.
And that also,
why would you bother?
That's a great point. That's a great point in another reason to not ever go back to Twitter. And the reason is do you think we really need to go there to find out the nature of the awful message that's coming from the Trump squad? And we won't be able to avoid it, right? And we don't need to hear it argued face to face. They're not interested in an actual argument.
It'll be on Fox and Friends that morning. It'll be covered in plenty of online sites. It'll come across your feed somewhere.
He'll put it on Truth Sinkhole, all that shit. Right. So
you're gonna know it happened. So you don't need to be on Twitter to know it happened. I mean, honestly, no. I mean, look. You may have your own personal reasons. I want to grow this. I want to grow that. But are there any broader, bigger reasons to be on Twitter? There are not. No. So if you determine for you, I mean, again, I agree with you on this, Hal, and I know not everybody agrees with me, and you, but I just think I personally think at this point there's little, if no, positives left to get from that place. And again,
there are none.
Elon Musk honestly is one of them. Is on a level of evil that matches Donald Trump. They're honestly two of the 10 worst people in the country, pretty easily, I would say.
Right. The essence of this. Hold on one second. There you go. The other important part of this, and by the way, welcome trolls. Glad you're here. Glad you could be here. Enjoy.
Oh, do we have some of them too? Awesome.
Yeah, of course. Well, because they got to do something. We're not on Twitter anymore. But here, the other aspect of it is
when you're a little bit of a loser and a little bit of an incel, and you don't have much of a life, and nobody really likes you. You have to really go. You're not going to find interaction in the real world with people that are well adjusted. So you got to show up where you can. Good job, guys. You're upsetting us a lot, as you can tell.
And also I'm very, very glad that they boost us in the algorithm. They are doing it for my channel when they show up. Right. Exactly what I'm telling people not to do.
Hal. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling our side not to do on Twitter. It does. I'm benefiting from this. You see what I mean? So
guys,
here's what I would say.
I have a live feed tomorrow. So if you all would like to stop by at Cliffs_Edge at YouTube, please come by also and insult me there, because you'll also hurt my feelings really badly.
Yes,
and you won't help my algorithm at all.
Yeah, trolls, head on over there, and you might be muted and you might be screaming into nothing, but at least you're feeling like you're doing something. Now, here's what I would say to the people.
I'm very thin-skinned, and you will hurt me deeply if you come over there and do that.
Absolutely. And if you super chat over $500, I will read what you say on the air. I might not get it right though, so I may misread it. But I mean,
I have trouble with English sometimes. I mispronounce and such. I lived abroad for a little bit, so
it happens.
Exactly. 500 gets me reading it. 1,000. I'll even be willing to put your face up there now, and you can say it yourself. Now, if the audio doesn't work that well, I'm working some things out right now. But they'll get worked out.
And also,
eventually, people will hear what you say.
Yeah, and also the trolls, you'll have to post your driver's license in the chat. Picture of your driver's both sides.
Make sure that guy Joey Manorino. If you saw that,
right.
Which by the way, I have to say that's one of the most ridiculous names that he must have made up. But let's get past that for a second. That he showed up at Blue Sky and then he wanted to show off that he was blocked, and he showed it off by including his email. His personal email in the screenshot because he's an effing moron.
Dear.
Right. I mean, so make sure to do that too, guys. Be really smart like Joey.
Absolutely. So here's what I would say to those of us that make content and are trying to promote content, and the ice skating uphill that we all face on that side, because you're always, while on the one hand we have more tools available to us to promote our stuff than we ever had before. You used to have to hire a whole, Madison Avenue advertising firm to get your shit out. And now we have a reach like products in the 70s never even dreamed of. Okay. So we would have been buying ads on WKRP. Like that's, we'd have to talk to,
now you're talking, baby.
Right. So here's what I would say to everybody who's like, who's concerned about leaving Twitter because you'll lose some of that reach. You said you were going to fight. I don't want to hear from anybody that you're like, we got to fight this and it's going to take and we've got to do it. But shut down one of my myriad of social media channel. Closing my Twitter. I got 170,000 followers on there, and only 80% of them are bots. And I think 9 of them are actually my people I like talking to, and the rest of it's just verbal abuse. And nobody buys my shit when I post it on there anyways. But I like to at least think I'm doing something. No. I'm
kind of enjoying how the countdown on mine, which is I think I had gotten to 100,300. I had just broken 100,000 right before the election. And then since then, and now since I basically left, I have it open, but I'm not there. I'm watching as it's going down. Like, can I get below 90? I'm still at 90,300. So I haven't gotten there, or 100 last I looked. So I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm going to enjoy, see if I can get down to 50, 24.
Yeah, well, here's my thing is, it would be a great honor to me if by the time I left, I didn't have any followers at all, because I hope they have moved. I hope that anybody who would follow me that if you do follow me, you literally think about what that word means. Follow me over to Blue Sky. Otherwise, what the fuck does follower mean?
If you follow me and I'm going somewhere else, you can follow me over there.
Yeah, it works, right? And again, this is open architecture versus a penned architecture. And there was I understand at one point when we were all very young and very innocent, and these social media networks told us they would respect us in the morning, we were like, yeah, I'll do this for free. You do something for me, I'm doing something for you. It's a free dinner out of it.
It's free, and they're letting me talk to everybody. What is it? What are they getting out of it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. We're the product. Now I get it. Right.
Especially when he trained Grok on all the content on Twitter and didn't tell you he'd been doing it for 2 fucking years before they gave you the option to turn it off. He's
Donald Trump. He is just a younger Donald Trump. Okay.
Right.
Except for the difference is that he has less charisma. He doesn't even have charisma to his own crowd. He's like J.D. Vance. and can't go into a place and order donuts in a coherent way.
Right.
But he is the same. Mommy and daddy had all of the money. In Trump's case, it was, of course, because daddy built all of these housing complexes and wouldn't rent to anybody who was black. In Elon's case, it was apartheid diamonds, and he came over here and he parlayed that into other things, but just because of who he knew, made plenty of stupid decisions, and was able to be bailed out because of the money that it was given to him, then that he made. He stole other people's ideas, didn't pay workers and fired them, didn't pay vendors. I mean, it's the same story. They're the same scumbag in two different bodies. They're horrible people. So of course he did what he did on Grok, because he's a con man, and he was stealing your stuff, and he's just going to do it further. So I mean, again, the best way I explain it to anybody, Hal, did you ever, like, even either before or not that long after, really even somewhat after the walls came down, stuff like that, like ever go to Eastern Europe or a place like that, where you just kind of felt like you're being watched wherever you went? Like, that's
I was in China off and on for 2 years filming a travel show where I literally I had a sit-down meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your. That's right. You as your entertainment side. Go ahead.
我说的中文说得很好. I speak Chinese pretty well. And the propaganda minister at when we had that meeting there did not realize that or assumed it wasn't true, and because they have their people who talk louder in Chinese at you when they don't think you understand. Just like we do. We're not alone in this. People are people, so why should it be? But I will never forget, and this is probably the thing that turned me on, like, going from suspicious of the Chinese government and discomfort from the way they are to this is a monstrosity. And
I was there in '99 also, just so I can tell you, and you could feel some things in the air. Go ahead. Sorry,
dude. So in 2001, I think it was the last year you could go to the Hutongs before they knocked them down outside of the Forbidden City. There were all these little like clay houses and tent city kind of things that were all there were 8 families running off the same water hose that was piped from someplace else, and tourists would come there and I walked through there because I wanted to see it when I was backpacking there myself. And I remember people going like, oh, they're going to knock these down or whatever, these poor people. I'm like, okay, first of all, this is terrible. These people are living in fucking squalor. It's not good. Right. Just because you get to come and watch it. It's like going to a refugee camp and going, this is quaint. Like, it's insane. But the fact that it was in the middle of the city, its days were fucking numbered. But when I was there, when I had that meeting with the propaganda ministry, and I was like, literally, they told me the day before we had that meeting, and I half-lidded like fucking Garfield for a day and a half. Like, the whole fucking day, I was like, you're shitting me, right? Like, we're really going to do this? And we're going to believe what they're saying. Like, look, I can play nice, because if I don't, they're not going to let us out of this fucking place. They were snatching fucking passports.
You play nice so you don't... so they don't...
That's right.
So what I used to, my background actually, what I got a master's degree in was international affairs. I'd lived abroad. I thought I was going to be a journalist abroad, all this sort of stuff. And so I moved over, did a lot of domestic politics, but I still had that background. So I consulted for the State Department for a while, and they would send me on these democracy promotion trips, which I find ironic now, being that we need to send me on trips around this country to promote democracy.
Right.
But they sent me to Romania. And okay, you could still see like the bullet holes in the square where Ceausescu had been lined up, and the communist leader who was a tyrant and shot and all that. And I would just tell you that, like, knowing that I was going there with the State Department and I was warned and everything, I just was looking around and I knew there were people everywhere watching me, watching what I was doing. I was just I went on a TV program there. They were theoretically a democracy at this point, right?
Right.
I went to on a TV show. I went to a few universities in different cities, Bucharest, and then 2 other smaller cities. And met with people, met with students, met with diplomats, and gave a bunch of talks. But the whole time, like I swear once or twice when I was, when I go out on my own, walk around, like I could just feel somebody. It's like Rocky IV. I could feel somebody over my shoulder,
Everything you invest for is in bar.
That to me is what... I'm sorry?
Where you go, they go. Yeah.
They go, right. That's right. I remember that. And that's the way it feels like on Twitter now. When you go to Blue Sky, this fresh, like, I mean, it feels like it's such a good name for it now. You feel like it's just clean air hits you and the sky is blue and you feel this freedom and this, and you have DMs there, which you don't have any other place besides Twitter, which, they're reading anyhow. And blue sky, and you've got all the stuff you can work with there to make it a better experience. And I can't tell you that once you've been through that, you go back to Twitter. If you do, just go back and check it out for a couple minutes after you spent enough time at Blue Sky.
Yeah, it's gross.
It does.
Well,
it used to feel. The only other time it ever felt that way to me, I'll say quickly, Hal, is when I used to go on and do those stupid debates in the early to mid 2000s on Fox News, where they'd have me on as a liberal and somebody else as a conservative, and I'd waste my time. The same thing. I felt like I wasn't in the United States anymore. I felt like I entered Pravda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you walked around, you could just feel it in the air.
Yes.
And that's the way Twitter feels now.
Yeah. Well, when we had that meeting with the propaganda minister, they had a translator working with him. And so I can understand what he's saying. He doesn't think I can understand. He thinks that all us white guys from the TV show that none of us speak Chinese for whatever reason.
Underestimated again, Hal.
Well, I'm a wacky, a big smile.
You're a wacky
kind of
comedian.
Stuff.
You couldn't actually be a smart guy too, and
right. I'm sitting there, and there's a woman next to him who's the translator for him. Who's translating, and she's very pretty young woman, and this motherfucker makes her life miserable every day with just the sexual harassment that is just rampant. The CCP is notorious for this. Like, everybody remembers that tennis player that was basically disappeared.
Yes.
Right? Remember that shit? Okay. That's how all the women in the government there are treated all the time. There are no unattractive women, and there are no women who are left alone. And
you actually start seeing that relationship between overt misogyny and totalitarian
it's brutal.
regimes.
So I'm sitting there.
There are none where there isn't that.
So I'm sitting there, as she's translating, and as this guy's talking, she's writing down what he says so that she can translate it as well as she can. Now, in a normal meeting where you have a translator, it's a more or less situation. You'll get the gist and all this stuff. But in this particular, it's the propaganda minister. He wants specific words. And her hand was shaking the entire time while she's writing this stuff down, meaning that she's scared to death that if she fucks up,
if she
and this guy
translates something wrong, that
even this much,
there's a prison camp somewhere
into
that's
English,
where she's going.
And they've got a guy in the fucking corner who speaks English really well, probably went to school in the United States and lived here for a while, who speaks colloquial English very well, and he's not there for us. He's listening to her.
He's there to make sure she does what she should do, or otherwise.
Me. And I remember, I walked into that kind of going, this is a fucking mess and weird and all that shit. I had this kind of thing. And when I walked out of there, my skin was hot. I was like, these motherfuckers. And it was ironic that the very meeting where they were trying to basically softball us into carrying water for the CCP made me twice as suspicious as I already was about every place we were going to go. And it opened my eyes to every time they canceled something or they moved something around, or this guy,
you asked yourself why. You got to a point where it wasn't just,
Yes. Yep. And that's, and again,
God, I know that feeling.
The fucking irony. So the guy, Brendan Carr, he's going to put there, I almost feel like I could find some sympathies. If I sat down with that dude and he and I had a conversation, I could wind him up about China, and that's all he's going to fucking do. He's not going to go after
fucking... Can I say something?
Yeah.
If you want to finish that point, because I want to say something, I think it's important, a broader point. I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go for it. Yeah.
Well, it's important to understand that, again, part of authoritarianism is there is no truth. It's not that they're selling you a fake truth. It's that they're trying to discombobulate you so you don't know what's up and what's down. I mean, everybody needs to remember that while all this is going on, and they attack China, they hate China, la la la. You've got Donald Trump, who all of his products were made in China, still are. He had a bank account there, which we didn't know about. We found out after his presidency. Yep. Numerous times he's congratulated them about how strong they are and tough they are. And remember also that everybody is bringing up one key aspect about Tulsi Gabbard, which is obviously, she's a puppet and Putin puts his hand behind the back of her head and has her talk. But she also is a puppet of China. If you go back and you look at some of the things she said, she came out against Japan rearming themselves as a threat to China. And I mean, she was reflexively defending. So even if this guy is saying one thing, this guy Carr, whether the hell he means it or not, and he may, for all I know, but it doesn't, it may be the only good thing. It doesn't matter because, and I don't think Tulsi's going to end up getting approved. But the point is that this government, just the way they caught one or two Chinese spies at Mar-a-Lago, this government is filled, or I should say, this movement, MAGA, is filled with people who quietly are either profiting or somehow are benefiting from the fact that of what China does and are pro-China, because they are pro-authoritarian. So everybody needs to keep in mind that they're going to be trying to trick you from 6 different angles. But this guy Carr, I mean, well, just the way you pointed out with Elon, who needs China and is on, and has Trump's ear. Like, they say one thing out of one side of their mouths, but just watch what they do. Because I don't think Carr, they may pretend they're doing things to hurt China, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Here's the problem. I think from reading what he wrote in Project 2025 and the fact that they put that in there, those people are true believers. They are, you could tell by how they're talking about it. But the problem, what's going to happen is they're going to be fighting with, not us, but they're the other members of Trump's cabinet that are secretly towing the line. And they're going to get real fucking suspicious real fucking fast why they're getting slow-walked information by the DNI or whatever, member of the White House staff that's supposed to get them information about the threat from China or the threat from Russia or the threat from North Korea, because those guys are all fucking
win, Hal.
Yes.
That's how we win, because you find those natural fault lines. There's the theocrats, and then there's the tech oligarch bros who think,
and at some point they have to pay the piper.
Project. I'm sorry?
Some point they have to pay the piper. You can't talk that talk without walking the walk, at least for your followers at some point. It's why, it's why Jim Jones had to die with everybody else. It's why the fucking, eventually your followers are going to be standing around with a cup of Kool-Aid going after you.
Right. I mean, and right now the theocrats are happy because they finally, after 40 years of not trying as hard as they pretended, got rid of abortion. But and it's probably something to do with Trump not getting the game that other smarter Republicans got, which is we want to use this issue forever. So we're going to make sure, oh, darn, I put Souter on the court. I thought he was going to overturn abortion. Yeah, it turns out he's not going to do that. But the theocrats are happy about all that stuff. But again, the tech broligarch guys are guys that believe in basically, white tech guy supremacy. And Peter Thiel's big project is to live forever by creating cybernetics and using our government doing experiments and God knows what else to do it. That's not very Christian or godlike to want to outwit God and live forever. I mean, there are just these natural fault lines where even the fascists are going to fight amongst themselves. And we need to exploit, John Thune being put where he was put showed what I've been saying for a while, which is that the biggest institutional power that's left against Trump is Mitch McConnell. Like him or hate him, and I absolutely hate him. But he, with dirty money, dirty corporate money, he got so many of these senators elected that they owe him. And so enough of them, when you close the door, didn't go for Rick Scott, who the MAGA people wanted. They went for John Thune, who is Mitch McConnell's lieutenant. And those two groups are going to fight it out too. So you just have to try to exploit these fault lines wherever you can.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, they set the terms of the fight, because again, if you're talking about in such bigoted terms, such broad brushes, Trump ran as fucking Santa Claus this time. Like, by the time he was ready to seal the deal in all these places, he was like, we're going to have a golden era and the biggest, beautiful everything. Like, everyone's going to be happy. No one's going to be mad except the libs who, are fat and happy anyways. Like, it was like he just did not give a fuck. He was like, politicians lie, so instead of worrying about lying on the margins, why not just go, you want to see a big lie? Check this shit. Like, hold my Diet Coke, right?
And Elon was doing that right alongside him, right? Like, if you're in Dearborn and you're Muslim, you're getting these ads about, don't let the Jews control you. Vote against Kamala Harris because her Jew husband. And then if you're Jewish and in Philadelphia, you're getting the ads of don't let those damn Muslims, those terrorists, threaten Israel anymor.
My mom has this had a woman in her neighborhood that they all go for a walk together. They're old ladies that go for a walk together, and she was saying she asked her niece. Her niece voted for Harris, and her niece brought up that the last time she was over at the house with her cousins, they asked, she said she voted for Harris, and they literally said, why are you going to do that? She wants to get rid of Christmas. And they literally mean that because she's Hindu and he's Jewish.
And he's Jewish, and I'm sure those ads were making their way around. I mean, again, there's nothing they didn't lie about. There's no fault line they didn't try to exploit, which is, by the way, again, why we still win often, because we're right on all the issues, and we've got some terrific communicators and all that, and we've got more Democrats fighting now, but we still lose because we should never be the scum that they are. But from some of their tactics, we should learn, because we're not willing to do some of the things that they're willing to do, because we feel like, oh, well, that's not in the spirit of democracy. And I mean, that's not who we're dealing with anymore, which is, again, why, again, for anybody listening right now, I'm just going to say this in terms of pressuring them. Do you think there'd be a question if the shoe were on the other foot and there was an investigation into a Democrat like Matt Gaetz and it had been spiked because he resigned 2 days ahead of time? And those who are on the ethics committee on the other party, Republicans, could get up and read that on the floor. Do you think there's any way in hell they wouldn't do it? And the fact that we're even having this conversation now about whether Democrats will do it, everybody needs to reach out to Democrats on the ethics committee and say, you better effing do it. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, this should not be a conversation. This is a way to show who they all are. That Trump was comfortable picking this guy, that a lot of them are comfortable supporting this guy, whether he makes it or not. If even 50% of their caucus is willing to support him, then it's showing who they are. That if they need to get up and read the goddamn report. I am so tired of that wouldn't be right, and collegiality and tradition, and no, fuck that. Honestly, get up and do your jobs, which is fight fascism.
The whole purpose.
And this is one of the ways you do it.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is the whole fucking purpose of the ethics reports, the way they do them, is to chase these assholes out of the government so that they don't have to go through the process of getting a member of their own party busted, effectively. Like, that is all it's for. And so if you get to leave, if you do it on the last second and then you try to get another job in government, fuck you. Sorry. The whole point is to get you out of here so we don't have to deal with your shit again. And we're letting you leave quietly. We're giving you the Nixon out. Just fucking leave, and we won't dive in after you. And he's not leaving. He's getting
go ahead.
He's trying for a bigger position. That's where that line is crossed. The idea is that you can slink away silently and we'll pretend you were never here, as long as you fucking go. But because he's trying to get a bigger job,
with these guys,
all bets are off.
Right? I mean, I don't think most people know the longest-serving Republican House Speaker, Denny Hastert, went to prison for molesting 15-year-old boys. He was a wrestling coach. I'm familiar. Jim Jordan knew what was going on, as numerous Ohio State wrestlers have testified, one of whom he even called crying, apparently, because he's a grovelly little shit, and begged the guy not to tell the truth. And this guy got up in front of the Ohio State legislature and told that story. But to get back to Hastert, they just let him. They made sure to just get him out of there. The longest-serving Republican House Speaker, and he was a child molester, or I don't know if they're 15, what you call it, but a pedophile, a predator, whatever. I'm not. I mean, it's disgusting, and that's what they're doing, and that's what they're trying to do. Would want to do with Gaetz, but no, you don't get the promotion. You get to go. You get to leave, and then and then law enforcement gets to investigate you, and hopefully you end up in prison.
Right. Yeah, I'm always amazed that these guys get a pass and don't take it because they think like the hubris, the ego, and when it comes to Matt Gaetz, just the baseline evil. They just assume they're going to keep winning, and what Trump has taught them is that if you just bullshit long enough, eventually they'll come after you, or they'll leave you alone. They'll let you. They won't come after you anymore. Right.
No, that's it. That's exactly it. And if you just keep. If you keep committing one scandal after another, it's hard for them to even keep up. Right. So they keep it going. So there's that too.
Absolutely. So, anyways, in the background, we have our beloved Tara Dublin, who is ready to rock, and I will bring her in. I want to remind everybody, Cliff's got a show, Cliff's Edge on YouTube. You should be there, especially if you're one of our trolls.
We're only 5,000 away. We just crossed 95,000. So come and subscribe to that. I'm going to tell you to do two things.
Clearly, I'm doing something wrong. It's the long form stuff, right? I just go too deep. That's what it is. All right. That's my fault.
Offline, I will tell you what to do, and you will. Seriously, I can, because I
love it.
Whatever, we'll have that conversation. But three things I need to say. One, follow me on Blue Sky, which is, whatever it is. It's just at cliffschechter.whatever social, Blue Sky social. Two, come to the YouTube, please. Cliff_Edge. We're only 5,000 away from 100,000. And three, and this is a really big talking point, I think, for Blue Sky, is you should go buy Tara's book, which has been exploding as I can see it on Blue Sky. All these people are recommending it and saying how awesome it is, which I meant to get it a while ago and like an idiot forgot. But I've been happy to see it, Tara, that your book's been doing great there.
Thank you.
Because I'm sure it's as awesome as everybody is saying it is. So that's your third thing that you need to go do.
I like it.
And, watch Hal, of course. So there you go.
There you go. Thanks so much.
And
appreciate it, brother. We'll see you again very soon. Tell Tony and everybody I say hi, and keep up the fight, we'll see you soon. All right.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'm going to bring in our wonderful and talented Tara Dublin, who indeed does rock right now. Boom. There she is. Look at that. She's blurry, and then she stops being blurry, and then she's less blurry. Yay, she's with us. Hello, darling. How are you? Hope you're well. Good to see you.
Hi. That was incredibly generous of Cliff. That's very generous of him to promote me at the end of his thing. So make sure you are doing all the Cliff things to acquire Cliff. And then Cliff is also going to be co-hosting with our friend Handsome Bob Seska on Bob's show. I saw that.
That's right. So he's taking over for somebody else. Yeah.
Yes. So that's another way to hang out with Cliff there. And we love cross promotion here in the sexy liberal universe. So hi, everybody.
Hi.
Am I coming in clear like Mike TV?
You can hear you just fine. You're a little blurry, but that'll catch up in a moment. And we can see your loveliness.
They're doing insane construction outside today, like super loud, like.
Yeah, it won't matter.
You can't hear any.
You're on an Apple device, and it's voice isolating, so we can't hear any of it. You're fine. So
cool. So I want to lead today with some positivity. Kind of picking up where Cliff left off. I want to talk about how remarkable Blue Sky is, because it's one of those things where it's like there's that stubborn Taurus woman thing, Jewish woman thing, where I'm like, I don't let Nazis run me out of anywhere. At the same time, it's so refreshing to not be suppressed and abused every time I put something on the internet. So it's been that's just a refreshing take on, and it's like OG Twitter from 10 years ago. But the thing that Blue Sky, like, the proof is in the stats. And what Cliff was saying isn't an exaggeration. Like, right before we went, I didn't check exactly right before we went on the air, but this last week, so I really started posting on Blue Sky a week ago Sunday. Right. And I had like a handful. I had about 700 or something followers, and this morning it's over 25,000. Which is great. It's beautiful. And they're all real people, right? They're not bots, and they're not right. They're not and every so often, like, a fake one sneaks in. There was a Pepe Frog guy who tried it with me yesterday, and I was like, no, sir. No, sir. Let me show you the door. But it's the proof that I've seen, not just in the follower count, but in the way my book is, like, people are seeing it. And in the last week alone, I have sold more books than I have sold in some months, entire months. I sold 58 books since last Sunday. And I'm up to 75 books just for this month, which is a wonderful amount. And so just for some perspective, I hit 800 total copies sold on election night. So I really couldn't enjoy that or
Sure.
absorb it in any way. And really couldn't be like, hey, look what happened.
Right.
I couldn't, really couldn't. Now I'm under 30 away from hitting 900 in
There
less
you go.
than 2 weeks from then. So blue sky is real. That's my kind of
Yes.
math.
Right.
So, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And sparklers are really dry. Like, I'm seeing so many sparklers there, which is beautiful. And
Real people, real fans, real actual viewers, real people who give a real shit. I know, I love them.
I know. Thank you, Magic Man. So that's been a beautiful light in the darkness this week, because every time I turn around, there's someone else saying, I just bought your book. There's someone else saying, oh my God, I can't believe how good it is. There's Ellen Barkin tweeting about how it's her escape now, because I finally got her a copy.
Nice.
Hello, Ellen Barkin, who I've told needs to come join us on Blue Sky.
I agree.
Having Ellen, right? So I'm doing that. And I also want you to know that I have taken your advice. I downloaded all of my Twitter data. So it's there on my hard drive. I don't really know what to do with it, but it's there. And they can't share my data. I ticked that, so they can't do that in my settings. I also have I'm no longer a subscriber. And I was a subscriber just to have that blue check visibility, but fuck that now, because it's not doing me any good.
Right.
So there's And so there's a month left where I'll have a blue check and then I won't. And so from that point forward, seeing what we'll see between now and then, I'm really disengaging. And I think the only time I would ever is I might treat it so how people treat the gym when they're mad and they want to go and punch the bag or lift weights, or maybe they go for a run. If I'm feeling all aggro and mean and shit, I'll go over there and work it out in that gym, and then I'll come back to Blue Sky hey guys, mommy's home, and I'm fine now. Mommy had to go out for a little bit. Mommy's home now. I feel like maybe that, but also don't feel really bad about just disabling entirely. I'm not really sure, but there is still this hope inside of me that exists, in that I think we're gonna see an implosion in the structure, and I don't think the bromance between Musk and Trump is long for this world, and I don't think they're gonna be buddies for very much longer.
And it's gonna be ugly.
It's gonna be beautiful for us though, because what's gonna happen? Here's what happens when people in positions of power know too much about each other. They talk shit about each other and they talk on each other. And Trump hates it when anybody steals the spotlight from him. And Musk is stealing the spotlight in a huge way because more people are talking about him than Trump. And he's a little bit more ubiquitous than Trump at the moment. Trump doesn't like that. So sooner or later, hopefully sooner, we're going to see a breakdown in that. And they're going to start talking shit about each other. And then everyone else is going to be talking shit about each other. And it's all going to come down like a house of cards. Meanwhile,
that's right.
We still can do truthful and productive and good things. And I am still on this recount thing a little harder than I was last Monday, because last Monday I just had a nervous breakdown. And by the way, thank you everybody in the chat for being so lovely and kind and supportive. It's because I had a lot of whammies that week, including losing my job, which are still, I have things in the works that hopefully will come to fruition, but there is nothing signed, nothing done yet. So I'm still looking and I'm still trying. But everybody who did that super chat thing for me last week, thank you so much, because that just means so much to me. And I'm working very hard to, I think you have to have 1,000 followers on YouTube before you can monetize your YouTube.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get there. So if you'd like to help me get there, please subscribe to my YouTube, and then we can start
link
monetizing.
will be. Yeah, Andrea will put the link. I think we've already done it once, but Andrea will put the link in the chat room in general, and you should be able to get in there and just go over there and subscribe. Here's the thing: you're never cheating on someone. And I wish the Midas Touch people would know this. You're not cheating on someone if you subscribe to another channel. It's not going to. You don't have to hit the notification. Just subscribe. Pass it around, because a rising tide lifts all boats,
We're all
and I don't know.
on the same side.
Right.
Like, getting possessive about shit.
Right.
Stop that. You don't
do it.
own the resistance.
This is how you do it,
Am I wrong?
okay? This is how you do it. Everybody who's following me that's hearing my voice right now, when you see the link come up, or you can look for Tara Dublin Rocks on YouTube, subscribe to her channel. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It benefits her channel. It helps. See how easy that is?
We all have to support each other. And that's the other thing. Blue Sky is like going to a prayer circle without, like, a non-denominational one where it's interfaith and we're all just like holding hands and toasting marshmallows and we say goodnight to each other. It's really OG Twitter vibes.
It is, yeah.
Like, oh, I have to flick you away. And it's gratifying to watch the MAGA people trying to come in like, why won't you just let us harass you? No, you have your Nazi echo chamber now over on Shitter. Go enjoy that. That's what you wanted. It's what you wanted. You got it. Oh, you don't like it when there's no one to punch except each other? Why are you all still so mad? You're all still so mad and trolly. I tweeted about my book and someone responded with, "You're a fucking ugly cunt." And I was like, okay, well, you're not hurting my feelings. So why are you so mad at me?
Well, they get very mad. They get extra mad. I got to say, they get extra mad if you don't get mad.
I'm not mad. What do you go?
Right.
Oh no, a mean tweet. Wow.
Right. Boo, fuckity who.
Do you have any idea how thick our skins are at this point? Like,
Jesus.
Seriously and for real.
Oh yeah. I'm like a fucking triceratops over here.
But again, right? But again, you know what we've seen also in the last week since you and I spoke, I'm seeing a couple of things. First, more MAGA people are learning about tariffs a little too late. Shucks. And then Latino people who voted for Trump are learning a little too late that their entire families are going to get deported, whether here legally or not. Oops.
Right.
Did you think that they were just kidding? Did you think that? Did you think they were just fucking around? They're not. They're not. They're not kidding. But here's the thing. Here's something. People in Pennsylvania, you don't even need like a mandate or anything. You can just demand a recount. Did you know that? And did you know that there are several major duty to warn letters circulating from people who like no shit. If you're following Spoonable, either on Twitter or Blue Sky, Spoonable is someone with like data and facts and real, and has sent a duty to warn letter to Kamala Harris, as have a group of other computer experts. And you know what? If there wasn't any fuckery, fine. We have every right to find out. That's all I'm asking. And again, if you have nothing to hide, you're like, come on in. Come on in, investigate our bathrooms.
Well, that was, that's the argument. That's the entire argument that they were making last time as well. And all of a sudden that dries up and everything's fine when it goes their way.
Weird. I'm not an election denier. I'm an election truther. I just want to know what the truth is. And I don't care. I don't like prove that it's true. Because now he doesn't have a mandate. And now we're finding out, like, she's creeping up on him in the popular vote. And we're finding out lots of other things. So maybe y'all slow your fucking rolls right now and you go back and you hand count the swing state votes. It's like Hooper says in Jaws, I want to be sure. You want to be sure. We all want to be sure. So let's cut this ugly son of a bitch open and see what spills out all over the dock. Because I don't think it's going to be the Kintner boy. We need to, thank you, thumbs up. So again, I know Jaws like most people know their own children. Like I know Jaws inside out, outside back, all of it. I'll catch this bird for you, but it won't be pleasant. So I'm just saying,
right.
Like we have every reason to demand it. MAGA Republicans brought over 60 challenges in 2020. And we were like, okay, we don't have anything to hide. We didn't cheat. Go right ahead. Knock yourselves out. If they feel this confident in their victory, let's go. Let's go.
I also think there's a lot of people assuming, because Biden greeted Trump at the White House and that they were glad handing and doing all the normalcy of it, that suddenly that's acquiescence or falling behind, when you know that the way you control Trump and his followers is through deference and flattery. Every world leader knows this. Why do the evil ones get to take advantage of it? Ask Macron. So right after that, Biden announces that Ukraine is allowed to use long-range missiles inside of Russia. They're limiting it to the Kursk region, which, if you overshoot it a little bit, is fucking St. Petersburg. So it's like an hours drive from Moscow, effectively. So believe me, that region is extraordinarily large, especially if it's anything that's being fired at you from that area. And so he's doing this. There are a bunch of areas where Biden, okay, one of the things that Trump did when he left office that nobody talks about except me was the fact that he gave Venezuelans a pass for a year and a half. He gave them he gave them DED, deferred enforcement, not temporary protective status, because temporary protective status means you have to adjudicate them. You have to sit them down, ask them where they're from, why they're here, what the their reason ultimately would be, so that eventually we'll protect you right now. But it's that probation kind of idea where you can hang out for a little while, but we got to know whether or not we're headed towards deporting you, or we're headed towards you becoming an asylum seeker, or if you have a family member, and that's what we got to do all that shit. That's what TPS is required. That's what all the Haitians were under, by the way. They had sponsors, they had families, they had a bigger reason why they could stay there and then participate, and then maybe eventually if their country stops being on fire, they would go home. That's the idea of real asylum. That's what they were doing. That's who those people are. But the Venezuelans, he just put a blanket on it, all the while claiming that, Venezuela is sending murderers here and all this kind of shit. So he put those people at the end of the line. So from the last thing he did when he was in office, before he walked out the door, was sign a piece of paper that gave a year and a half DED coverage to all Venezuelans in the country. You don't even ask them why they're here. The Biden administration had to unravel part of that in the end of 2021 just so they could move some of them up, because they knew a huge chunk of them weren't real asylum seekers and they need to be processed like you do. And so they went through this process, but a bunch of them slipped through the cracks, one of them being an underage 17-year-old who later on went on to kill Laken Riley. Laken Riley's death is on Donald Trump. Donald Trump punted what would have been an adjudication process that would have happened with that guy way earlier by a year and a half. And everybody else in that group, every time they brought up fucking Venezuelans, I'm like, fuck you. First of all, most of them are innocent and trying to just live their best life and trying to save their families and all kinds of shit like that. But the ones that are here that are bad, this dude gave them a year and a half fucking pass to sit around like digging in and twiddling their thumbs or moving around the country so it was harder to find them. This motherfucker. Right. So Biden is doing a bunch of stuff that is not a trap for the people of the United States like that was, because that was meant to undermine the presidency by endangering the lives of Americans. That's what he was trying to do. So he could come back in the midterms or whatever and vilify immigrants because a bunch of murders in the country, even though he left them here. So Biden is going in there going, okay, how do we lock in some of the things that we're doing in a way that it's like a Gordian knot? He cannot. If he wants to break it, he's got to break everything with it. And the Republicans in these red states are going to cry fucking foul. Ramaswamy says this week that he's going to delete the Department of Education. It's an act of Congress that gets rid of the Department of Education. And the Department of Education benefits red states more than it benefits blue states. It is the method by which tax dollars from blue states, who have plenty of money for their schools most of the time, funnel that money to red states that don't, to pay for new gymnasiums and books and electricity and ventilation systems and all that shit. And if they undo it, that's where the squeeze will come from. And every one of these red state governors is going to go, hey, hang on a fucking second. On all
Not
of these
in
programs.
Oklahoma, though. They're fine with it in Oklahoma.
They won't be. And by the way,
that guy
if I may,
Trump Bibles in the public schools, he wants to be the one running the Department of Education.
Right.
And it's insanity. It is insanity.
Here's what I'll say. Let the kids read the Ten Commandments, because the only thing you can come away from it with is, well, first of all, the first 5 of these would violate the Constitution, and the other ones the president broke. And bragged about it. He extrajudicially killed Soleimani when he was just going to the airport. He just snuffed him. Like that. You want to talk about like thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not murder? That's pretty fucking direct. That's not self-defense. You can make that argument all you want. And
Jamal Khashoggi, anybody?
Right. And his whole fucking career is based on coveting. I mean, it's basically his brand.
Again, everyone has just been taken, and I don't get it. I will never get it. I'll never get it. I really won't. But at this late stage of the game, like, this is when everybody should have been they should have all been woken up already, but they're not. And now, again, I'm going to continue to stress this, because I know that we still have MAGA people who come into the chat and hang out and derive pleasure from being here. But again, and I want to make this so abundantly clear to you, I don't want any of you to die. And I don't have any ill will towards any of you. And if I have to, like, remember Scared Straight? Remember that documentary Scared Straight, where like, show everybody how terrifying jail really is, because it's really not cool to go to jail.
Right.
It's really not cool to bring about the end of your own society. It's really not cool to destroy democracy from within, to own the libs. You know, like, I don't care if you want to disagree with me or call me names, but wishing death upon your fellow Americans, not cool. So I would say, you know, and like, I mean, I don't care if I go out in a blaze of glory on Twitter, and I don't care if I get suspended for it, but I'm telling MAGA women, real ones, not the fake accounts, but the ones who have like 70,000 followers and more or whatever, you voted away your health care. Bottom line. You voted away your health care by voting for Donald Trump. He has promised to get rid of it with nothing to replace it. So when you're bleeding out in a parking lot and no one is going to help you, I hope that you remember that I begged you to vote for yourselves instead. And you did.
Okay, again.
So, and let me just finish it. People are mad at me on Twitter for saying this, and I'm saying it because Amber Thurman's mother will never get her daughter back because of Trump's abortion laws.
Right.
And his abortion bans. I don't want that to happen to one Republican woman. Not one. Not your daughters, not my nieces, not anybody with a functioning reproductive system. Not one. That's what you voted for. You voted to be turned away from an emergency room when you have an ectopic pregnancy. Do you think it only happens to liberal women? No. Republican women have miscarriages. Republican women have complicated pregnancies. Republican women need reproductive health care. So when you vote that away and it's never going to come back, I want you to remember that I advocated for you. I'm doing that. I'm advocating for the women that you're not advocating for.
I agree that is what you're doing, and I agree that you care on that level. I disagree with doing it on Twitter.
That I care.
Right. And I don't even know that their followers are real, even when they have 70,000 followers on that account. That doesn't mean those are real either. And what'll happen is, unfortunately, there's such an own the libs bullshit reflex in these people that if their daughter was bleeding out, they would hide it from the world to protect Donald Trump because they don't want the Tara Dublins of the world to say, I told you so. And that's fucking terrifying, because anything that would put a hitch in their get along and getting her to a real hospital where she can get the care that she needs, even if it's just like, we can't let people know that we're failing, which is what cults do. Cults do this all the time. Right. Yeah. But no, so we're all packing our shit. I know you were a ride or die Twitterite, but it's got to end.
Like not when it's become this.
No.
I mean, especially since the 5th. It is really, and that's the other part of it, the glee in which they are enjoying threatening to dismantle American democracy when they still have no concept of how good they've had it under the Biden administration. You don't. You have no idea how good you've had it, because your daily lives have honestly not been impacted negatively in any way. And in fact, your daily lives have gotten better every single day under the Biden administration. You're just not being made aware of it because Donald Trump is telling you how terrible it is when it's not. And again, whitehouse.gov/the record. I don't have to make shit up. I can look at the White House record and go, Donald Trump left office with a 6.7% inflation rate and 2.7 million jobs lost. Those are the facts. Joe Biden has now 2.4 or 2.6%.
And you ain't seen nothing.
And the jobs are incredible. And the way that the CHIPS Act has helped America, and all of the things that Joe Biden has done, the infrastructure laws and the student loan forgiveness and all of those things, every single thing, because you're worried about how much eggs cost? Really? Don't have eggs for a little bit until things level off, because in a year, eggs are going to cost $45 a dozen because there's nobody left to pick the eggs. There's nobody left to feed the chickens because Donald Trump has deported all of the farm workers.
Well, here's
Good
okay. I would even go further than that in this regard. He is shepherding Elon Musk into the White House and making him in charge of efficiency and all that kind of shit, which means they are intending on firing at least 50,000 federal workers. They want to fire a bunch of secondary Pentagon people. So you're talking about, you know, by the time they're done, whether they get anywhere near these level of cuts, they're talking about like 1 million people from the federal workforce. That is a significant bump in the unemployment rate. Then you talk about all the jobs that aren't being filled by MAGA, by like immigrants that MAGA isn't going to pick up the slack for. Those people aren't going to fill in those jobs. So those will be unanswered job opportunities, and that's part of the unemployment. People looking for jobs and they won't do those jobs. So that's another fucking point in it. The dude is looking at 6% unemployment, period, as a baseline before Elon Musk walks in his completely undocumented and, robots to finish off the assembly line jobs in his own factory first. And then, and then I guess every industry after that. There are 6 people working the line. I noticed this the other day, and I've mentioned it a couple times, but there are 6 people working the line at the Tesla factory in California. 6. Everybody else, there's some robot servicers, but there's only 6 people who actually are on the assembly line where they take a piece down and they put it on a conveyor belt and it goes into this thing, or they pick it up and they attach it to something before it's sealed in by a robot. Literally the Optimus robot that he's created is only to replace those 6 people. Donald Trump's buddy that makes factories in Mexico, they're the greatest car factories in the world. They barely have any people. It's like 9 fucking people in those factories. That's not a jobs plan. It just isn't. And look, automation is going to be the way that we bring down costs for almost everything for everybody. But in the short term, it's going to be fucking ugly. And they have no sympathy for or no preparation for the damage that will be done in the process.
No, they don't. It's going to happen across all industries. It's not just going to be the auto industry. It happened in radio. Human beings are replaced by automation all the time.
Right.
And you hear, you never hear a human voice on some radio stations, or they're voice tracking people from other cities across the country. Or now they're replacing human voices with AI voices on iHeart radio stations, because the guy who's in charge of iHeart radio is like, it's cheaper for us to generate AI talent than pay a talent who's willing to move to another city. Right. Which is fucked, because the whole reason anybody ever listened to the radio in the first place was the human connection between themselves and the DJ. They formulated a relation. I had a great relationship when I was on the radio here for 5 years. I had real relationships with my core listeners, people who called me every day, people who emailed me, people who, loved the station. We call those P1s, people who are always listening. Those people, the people who mattered, those consumers, and those people are gone because there's no one to answer the phone and talk to them. And there's no one to reflect what they want. And it's when people are telling you what you want instead of listening to you telling them what you want, that's where it all gets all messed up and fucked up. And so, we still have a voice in this country. And while we still have a voice, we need to be using it very, very loudly, because I'm telling you, MAGA friends in the chat, the things that Hal and I say are true, and we are not invested in lying to you, and no one is paying us to lie. We are not Soros funded. No one is, I don't want to scare anybody. That's not how I roll. I am not, I'm not someone who's an alarmist, and it takes a lot for me to be like, holy fuck, this is bad. So when I tell you, holy fuck, this is bad, it's not just bad for Democrats. It's bad for you too. You're not special. And, you didn't conquer the elites because you're helping the elites. You're helping the elite rich tech bros get richer and they're actually going to protect themselves. They're not going to protect you. They're not going to protect you at all. And you're not going to, whatever job you have now, no one's getting a cost of living wage increase. No one's getting a Christmas bonus. Everyone's going to be screwed because of the tariffs and the lack of health care. Between those two things alone, people are going to die just that way. Because they're not going to be able. Is it more important for you to own the libs or own your house and a car? It's a valid question. That is a valid question. And do you care more about being able to have health care, or do you care more the fact that I won't have health care? We're all going to die together. I don't want to die with you. I'd like to be able to live long enough to keep fighting with you. I don't care if we argue all the time. I don't care how many times you call me a libtard or a bleeding heart or whatever. I don't want you or your children to die. I do not. And I don't know what it will take. I don't. And it's kind of like the parent thing where you're gentle, like, don't touch the stove, honey, it's hot. Don't touch the stove, honey. And then they touch the stove and we're like, did I tell you not to touch the stove? That's how you learn that. Then that's how you learn. How many times do you have to get burnt before you stop touching the stove? Stop touching it.
Well, the irony is that if you ask these people, they would argue that we have been taking their hand and putting it on the stove this whole time, and they've finally been able to remove it because that's how they feel viscerally. Yeah, I agree. But that's how they feel about it. And again, this is how deluded they are. Can I just say for the record, that there is no such thing as a billionaire counter-elitist. That's not a thing. Counter-elitist it shouldn't be a thing anyways. It's a fucking made up bullshit term, but it's like the anti-deep state kind of bullshit that they talk about all the time. And for fuck's sake, no one who is the richest person in the world is anti-elitist. As a matter of fact, this motherfucker is very choosy who gets to be in his circle. Right? Literally hiring scientists out of other labs, hiring other tech people so that he could take credit for their creations, endlessly. Right? That's elitism. That's corporate elitism. It's the old classic. And the idea that some folks are like, they have this idea that Trump is sort of a man of the people is goofy and amazing that they believe it. But the fact that with Elon Musk, who literally wants to chip 2 billion people's brains. He said this on Joe Rogan fucking 6 years ago, and they're moving towards it. Now, will they do it? No. Other companies are way ahead of them, and there will be all kinds of stuff. It'll be mostly for people who are wheelchair bound or who have, locked-in syndrome or something like that. But it's not for a lack of trying. And the idea that fucking Alex Jones or one of these motherfuckers would give someone like Elon Musk a pass to hang around the White House at all, considering he wants to chip everyone's brain, would make Alex Jones from 1999's head fucking explode. That's the most shocking thing to me. Yeah.
Why do they keep offering you shit that nobody actually wants?
Right.
What's this? And that's the other thing. And it's like, again, MAGA thinks it's so, but it just feels like we're being uber punked. And I just visualize them. Well, first of all, like that photo of all of those dipshits on the private jet surrounded by McDonald's.
Right.
You're gonna make America healthy again? How, Crazy Kennedy? Aside from the fact that Crazy Kennedy loves to cut up dead animals, he dips tobacco while eating McDonald's. You want that guy in charge of HHS? I don't think you do. You don't. Because we may have you dead.
Can I just say, what we may be in a situation because of RFK Jr. being in HHS and Donald Trump's beliefs about this kind of shit and everybody's reticence to take any kind of precautions against disease, and Pete fucking Hegseth saying he never washes his hands because after he goes to the bathroom or touches anything because he doesn't think it's important. We may have the first situation in the world where a bad flu could decapitate the government of the United States of America.
100%. 100%.
For real.
And that's the other, for real.
Yeah.
And again, nobody who is a commentator on Fox News should be anywhere near the government for any reason. And I certainly don't trust a future press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, to ever tell us the truth. And who's going to be in the press room then anyway? Newsmax, OAN, and Fox. You really think they're going to let anybody else into the press room?
I'll go.
There's no... I would go too, but would they let us in? Probably not.
No.
So they would let us in so they could kill us. And I think that is the reason why you saw Morning Joe and Mika make a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to be, please don't kill us. We'll say anything you want. What the fuck? I saw that this morning and I was just like, oh, I took them to
He's there because of them in the first place, for fuck's sake.
That's what I tweeted. I tweeted this morning. I was like, they're the two of them, and tagged them. And I'm like, you did this in 2016.
Yeah.
Because you thought it boosted your ratings and you thought he was entertaining. And then you spent the last few years criticizing him as though you were apologizing to us for it when you really weren't. And now you're there on your knees for him or whatever. And I was just like, fuck you. You did this. You normalized it. You made it. Now you're afraid he's going to kill you. That's what you're afraid of. You are capitulating before the fact. It makes me want to peel every last bit of skin off of my body in full frustration, watching MSNBC going, yes, boss. Like, no, this is not the way. And they appoint, you were just talking about it with Cliff right before I came on, the guy that he wants to appoint to the FCC. Like, do you like television, my friends and the MAGA friends in the chat? Could say goodbye. He was saying Donald Trump wants to get rid of Saturday Night Live. He wants to get rid of NBC News. He wants to get rid of all of the news so he can keep lying to you. Well,
here's the thing. This is okay. Again, they set these standards up, and they are so fucking sweeping that they are unanswerable. So it would be one thing if they were like, we think, MSNBC is secretly in the tank and they're getting marching orders from the DNC. This was a talking point we'd hear on occasion, but they really just kind of call them, their own version of Pravda, the way we talk about Fox News, which it actually is, because literally on January 6th, the fucking hosts are trying to reach Trump and they have his own personal phone number. It's very different, right? Okay, so it stuns me that that this guy's got, he's like, we've got to level the play. He's basically arguing for the fairness doctrine. He's basically arguing, and that guy, Brendan Carr, I read the section that he wrote, and I've read the Project 2025, but the whole section that he wrote, I reread it after he was, put up there. And everything he's arguing, but for a couple of weird digs at stuff that were annoying him about Russiagate or some shit where they want to go relitigate some of that bullshit, which, by the way, if it ever gets in a courtroom, the discovery process would be brutal publicly. So they'll avoid it at every cost. They can't strip in all these press situations. They can't strip their license or deny them any of their rights outright. You just can't shut off the thing because they'll just keep broadcasting until you show up with guns and shut down their servers. You won't be able to do it. It's just absurd. But what they'll try to do is just kind of it's that, obeying in advance. They're trying to get them to kowtow initially, and that so that they don't have to go after them the way they said they were going to go after them. And they this guy still wants to, though. This guy's he's a red flamer, right? So he's got a red flame shooting out of his asshole, so he can't think about anything else. And there's going to be some people that want to relitigate this. Well, when they do, what's going to come out? Was it Ramaswamy, I think? No, it was Kash Patel. There was an interview with Kash Patel, and he's like, we should have an office of declassification, who literally, they hide stuff through classification, so we should just have somebody, and that the default should be declassify stuff. I'm like, fine, motherfucker, get ready for my request for the Mueller transcripts of the grand jury. I want the grand jury testimony for the Mueller trial, for the Mueller investigation then. If you're just if the default is to let it out, then I want to see the Epstein files. I want to see all that shit. Don't talk to me about fucking UFOs and JFK. I give a fuck. Don't throw bones to fucking Roseanne in the corners of the fucking tinfoil hat crowd. I want the real shit, and that includes a bunch of stuff Trump will not want to show.
No, but what's funny is you have all of these Republicans saying declassify the Epstein files, and we're like, yeah, do it. He was best friends with Donald Trump. They raped little girls together. They shared the little girls they raped. I continue to share an excerpt from the Epstein files that describes Donald Trump raping those two little girls, hitting them across the face because they gave him a bad blowjob. The little girls were crying because he wouldn't wear a condom, and they were worried about getting pregnant, and he threw cash at them and told them to get a fucking abortion. Fucking abortion. And that isn't just one excerpt. And anytime I share it, there's always MAGA people telling me it's fake. I couldn't write that if I tried. I couldn't make that shit up because my mind can't go there. I have 12-year-old twin nieces. Do you think I want to think about that shit? Do you think I could make that shit up? No, I can't. You know who could? Those fucking rapists who actually did it. You are talking about, you talk about it, you want to protect children, and you're the pro-life party. Bull fucking shit you are. If you were the pro-life party, you would care that Amber Thurman bled out in a parking lot. If you were the pro-life party, you would care about babies thriving and women being able to control their own bodies and all of that. You would care about what happens to children after they're born, not just when they're inside. You would care about a lot of things that actually make sense, but instead you're not. And when it comes to the FCC, like, I have my issues with the FCC, particularly in, you know, the 90s when everything got deregulated and people could own as many radio stations they wanted to in a market and blah, 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 blah. One of my bigger concerns now is the person who's in charge of the FCC is a Jewish woman. Her name is Jessica Rosenworcel, and her cousin is Brian Rosenworcel, who's the drummer for Guster. And I'm friendly with Brian, and you know, you hear about, like, when she got appointed, it was a big deal because she's a Jewish woman and she, you know, and she's doing a fantastic job. I worry about Brendan Carr coming in and being like, Jessica, can you step out here with us? You know, like, I don't know. Jewish woman, enemy of the state. They're threatening their enemies. They're threatening journalists. They're threatening people who are going to tell the truth. Do you think that's empty threats, MAGA friends in the chat? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with, you know, I don't know, somebody disappearing Rachel Maddow in the middle of the night just because she says things you don't like? I don't think that's the world anybody should live in. I don't care if you don't like the truth. You don't have to pay attention to it, and you don't even have to believe it. But people have the right to speak. You know, and don't tell me Elon Musk loves the First Amendment when all he does is suppress it over on Shitter. That's all he's doing. He's made that a Nazi echo chamber so you could all have your big circle jerking and celebrate the demise of America, but you have all voted for the wrong things.
And again, I do think in some cases that whether or not they mean them as empty threats, clearly a big section of those voters view it as empty threats, the same way they talk about his tariffs as being a bluff. A lot of them, if you ask them, it's not, because there is no other arrow in his quiver. He does not have another option. Because he wants to cut taxes. And the only other way you pay for the shit he wants to do, including this fucking giant roundup, which he's going to use Defense Department money to do largely. And he's going to, you know, the idea is that he's said today that he's going to declare an emergency, a national emergency, that there's an invasion going on. There's nothing even still, there's no aspect of the National Emergency Act that you can declare that human beings present in the country, unless they are of an organized army literally wearing uniforms or the like, or are tied together through some sort of evidence that they're planning some sort of sabotage attack circa 1939, that you could just declare an emergency because you don't like the current state of things. That'll be the hard part. So it won't work. So the money's got to come from someplace else. Well, where's he going to pull it from? He's not going to pull it from, you know, each of those departments are going to be pissed if he starts to take it from elements of the DOD, right? He can't unfurl it from there. So he's going to have the House pass a bill that is a supplemental, right, outside of the regular bill or as part of the must-pass budget. And then we're looking at a government shutdown in June because he wants to pay for this fucking deportation scheme. And even a bunch of his own Republican Congress people don't want to vote for it. They're happy to, like, stand there and watch it happen. But once they have to justify the payments for it, they're going to start freaking the fuck out. This is where I think the rubber hits the road. And again, where not just assuming he's going to get away with it and not just assuming it's all going to go smoothly, so that we can see the wrinkles in the road and we can see the weaknesses in it and leverage them. Both how we drive the public conversation about it and embarrass the living fuck out of them, which is what our business is, and where people who are in office and who still have their position can use, manipulation and, coercion and shame and the powers of the purse strings to slow this roll or stop it altogether.
I hope so. I mean, I hope that there are enough people who have some fight in them, because our fight didn't end on November 5th. And our fight doesn't end. I mean, what it reminds me of is when people talk about the Holocaust, and people who aren't Jewish ask questions like, why didn't the Jews fight back? Why didn't people stop the Nazis? Why didn't people do anything? That's what's happening right now. This is what we're facing. We're facing a fascist takeover of the United States of America. That's what we're looking at. And that's not hyperbole. And that's not me trying to, if it scares you, good, because it should scare you. Fascism is not a good thing. It's not cool. Again, Not a cool thing. You don't want fascism. Right. Fascism takes away your rights, just like it would take away mine. Don't you understand? Do you think that Donald Trump's not going around house to house going, who'd you vote for? Okay, this house is fine. It's not going to be like Passover where they paint a bloody X on a door saying, don't sacrifice us. We're good here. It's not going to be like that. You're all fucked. We're all fucked equally. That's how you level the playing field, because everybody's going to die from the same shit if you don't take action. And this is the time to fight back against fascism, not after they get back in the White House. We can't just let them walk through the front doors again without an absolute fight. And the fight means making yourself a little uncomfortable. It means stepping outside of your comfort zone. It means picking up a phone and calling your members of Congress, or writing an email if you don't want to make a phone call. There are plenty of resources where you can find out who your members of Congress are and contact them while we all still have a voice, because it absolutely matters. And I do not want anyone to look at me and say, well, what did you do? What did you do? I know what I'm doing. I know. Well, especially,
okay, this is a message I would say specific to, look, I know for a fact that most Democrats, especially in the House, certainly every one of them in the Senate, is knuckling down to, to throw as many fish hooks and anchors in this bullshit as they possibly can. The message that really needs to go out is to all the folks who are in my audience and your audience and everywhere else, that if they have a Republican congressperson, you guys in that district need to be calling that person and letting them know what's up. You need to light up their phones all the time. This might be just a weekly practice that we get through. Hey, it's time for your Wednesday finger wag, or your Friday fuck you, or your Monday no more MAGA, or whatever we call it. Where after we finish up the show, or after you do this, that you guys got to call your red state congressperson and go, what the fuck is that? And so that they know, they know you're out there. Our biggest loss, I think, was in some two prime groups that clearly the numbers show, again, it should not have been this close to where they could, if there's a marginal fuckery in the vote, that's clearly a possibility. Even beside that, again, we're back in the situation we were with Al Gore and George W. Bush, that there was this overlap of like, well, one guy, he's a little wooden, the other guy you like to have a beer with, it's a flip of the coin. No. If Al Gore had been president, 9/11 may never have happened, for one. And if it did happen, in spite of all their best efforts, the response would have not been an $11 trillion pair of wars. And it wouldn't have been. It would not have been. It would not have been. It wouldn't have been. It would have been a totally different fucking timeline altogether. And so it does matter. Right. And so this idea of people, the voters that flip a coin every so often, if we've lost any of those folks, it's our responsibility to bring them back. And again, if there's any lesson to be learned, and again, this puts aside everything that's out of our control, whether they fucked with the votes, whether or not there's, it's just a shift in tides, or whether we, didn't look with clear enough eyes at the misogynistic base of certain Latino-based cultures and the particular groups that came up here, Guatemala versus Brazil or some shit like that. Maybe that's a factor, but you and I can't control that. Okay, we can't do anything about that. What we can do is not get so caught up in a jargon circle jerk that we are using our words to describe our ideas to people that do not understand our words. Because what happened largely over the last few years, especially, and this is true of maggots as well, because they were screaming into their own zone. He worked as their, Trump acted as their MAGA translator. That's what that whole common sense shit was about. He's not anywhere near the common sense. And if you were a purist maggot, you would go, oh my God, why is he saying common sense? We don't need to work with people. This is this isn't common sense. We're radical fucking. We need to change everything, right? They would have fought back against this in the same way that far left, whatever the fuck that means anymore, would balk at any time you said something even mildly moderating about a very complex issue, right? We would eat